The city never truly slept. It hummed, groaned, and pulsed with life, like a restless spirit beating inside a metal heart. Cars blared their horns in anger and exhaustion. Street vendors called out in rhythmic chants, selling roasted corn, puff-puff, and grilled meat to hurried strangers. From a distance, a saxophone wept from a bar balcony, its melody carried by the thick, humid air. In the midst of it all, the city shone, bright, alive, yet shadowed. Its towers stood proud like modern totems, reflecting the sun by day and neon fire by night. But beneath the noise, beneath the smell of fried oil and ambition, something ancient stirred. The city had secrets, old spirits hiding behind glass windows and empty smiles. It was a world of appetite, people running, eating, chasing, never stopping. The ancestors once said, "When a man runs too fast, he may eat poison before he smells it." But in this city, no one listened. Everyone was hungry for something: money, power, love, or simply survival. And among them was Naya. She moved, like a gust of wind through the streets, swift, sharp, and determined. At 27, she was a marketing executive with eyes that never slept. Her phone never stopped buzzing, her coffee never stopped flowing, and her smile never quite reached her eyes. She wore confidence like armor, her heels striking the pavement with rhythm and purpose. Yet inside she was tired, not the kind of tired that sleep can cure, but the kind that comes from running too far from one's roots. The city had taught her to be fast, not wise, to consume, not reflect. The stories her grandmother once told of spirits that watched the careless eater, of food that remembers who eats it, had faded into dust in her memory. Naya would laugh at such things now. "Superstition," she once told her mother. "The only spirits I believe in are deadlines and traffic." But sometimes, when the night was too quiet, she could almost hear her grandmother's soft voice whisper, "Child, not every meal is meant for the mouth. Some are meant to test the soul." She always shook it off, until the hunger came. It started as something ordinary, a growl in the stomach between meetings, a craving that refused to rest. She had skipped breakfast again. There was no time. Work consumed her, and hunger became her shadow. Every evening, she found herself at some random eatery, a roadside stall with sizzling oil, a corner cafe with plastic chairs, a nameless restaurant where no one asked questions. It didn't matter where. Food was fuel, and she had to keep moving. But lately, she had started noticing something strange. No meal satisfied her for long. She could eat a full plate and still feel empty, as if something inside her kept asking for more. Her colleagues laughed. "Naya, you're addicted to food delivery," one joked. She smiled weakly. "Maybe," she said. But deep down, she knew it wasn't the food she craved. It was a feeling, a fullness she had lost somewhere between childhood and ambition. Then came the night that changed everything. Rain poured over the city like tears from a weary sky. The streets shimmered with reflections of headlights and puddles. Naya walked briskly, clutching her bag over her head, her heels splashing through shallow water. She had worked late again, the kind of late that turns the city into a ghost. Her stomach growled, louder than the thunder. She scanned the street. The usual fast food stalls were closing, and the scent of roasted corn had vanished into the rain. Then, from the corner of her eye, she saw it. A faint, golden glow cutting through the mist. A small sign hung between two tall buildings, its letters gleaming softly. "The Golden Spoon." She paused. It was strange. She had walked this route many times before, but she had never noticed this place. The restaurant seemed untouched by the city's chaos. No shouting vendors, no smoke, just soft jazz playing inside and the gentle glow of warm light spilling onto the wet pavement. Something inside her, a whisper, a pulse, warned her to keep walking. Her grandmother's voice echoed faintly in her mind. A meal too perfect hides a hungry spirit. But hunger can silence even the loudest wisdom. Naya laughed to herself. It's just food, she muttered, and pushed open the door. A bell chimed, soft, almost musical. The air inside smelled divine, like roasted spices and sweet herbs, rich and inviting. Everything gleamed. Golden chairs, golden curtains, golden spoons lined neatly on each table. It was as if she had stepped into another world. A woman emerged from behind the counter, tall, graceful, dressed in a flowing traditional gown of deep red and gold. Her smile was calm, almost too calm. "Welcome, my dear," she said, her voice smooth like melted honey. "You must be cold. Sit, eat, warm your spirit." Naya hesitated. "Thank you, but what's the menu?" The woman's smile deepened. "Here, we serve what your soul hungers for." Naya frowned but felt her stomach twist again in hunger. The warmth, the smell, the serenity. It was intoxicating. She sat down, unaware that the shadows behind her were beginning to move. Outside, the rain washed the city clean. But inside the golden spoon, something ancient had begun to stir. And Naya, the daughter of speed, had just taken her first step into its waiting mouth. Behind the counter, Madame Coy stood tall, her presence calm yet commanding, like the moon watching over troubled waters. She wore a deep golden wrapper that shimmered faintly under the soft lights, each fold catching the glow as though woven from sunlight itself. Her face was smooth, her smile warm and wide, but her eyes, those eyes, held something the smile could not hide. They were deep, knowing, carrying the quiet weight of many lifetimes. "Welcome, my daughter," she said in a voice that felt older than the city itself. It rolled through the air like a story once told by firelight. "Sit. The night has walked too far upon your shoulders." Naya smiled faintly, trying to hide her exhaustion. "Thank you. I didn't even know this place existed." Madame Coy chuckled softly, stirring a pot behind her. "The golden spoon finds those who need it. The hungry always arrive, one way or another." The air filled with the rich aroma of spices and warmth. Naya closed her eyes for a moment. She hadn't realized how tired she was until now. The music in the background was soft, the kind of rhythm that reminded her of her grandmother's evening songs, gentle, ancient, full of hidden meaning. When the food came, it looked simple, a bowl of jollof rice and fried plantain, nothing more. But the first bite melted in her mouth, flooding her with comfort. It was as if every bone in her body exhaled at once. The warmth spread through her chest, her limbs, her thoughts. She forgot the rain, the deadlines, the loneliness. "This is incredible," she whispered. Madame Coy smiled, her golden bangles clinking softly. "Food is not just to fill the belly, my dear. It must also remember who you are." Naya laughed lightly. "Then this food must know me better than I do." Madame Coy's eyes glinted, the corners of her lips curling in a mysterious smile. "Perhaps it does." For the first time in months, Naya felt at peace. Her laughter came easily, her worries felt far away. As she left that night, the rain had stopped, and the streets looked softer, calmer. But behind her, Madame Coy watched through the window, her golden smile still shining, her eyes unreadable, like a calm sea that hid its deepest secrets beneath the surface. The days that followed slipped by like sand through fingers. Naya found herself drawn back to the golden spoon again and again. Each evening, her feet carried her there as if guided by something unseen. The moment she tasted Madame Coy's food, her world quieted. No ringing phones, no shouting bosses, no aching loneliness. "Ah, my daughter returns," Madame Coy would say, always waiting, always ready. Soon, Naya stopped eating anywhere else. The thought of other food made her stomach twist. She would laugh louder at work, smile brighter, but when she looked in, the mirror, her eyes seemed duller, as though the spark within her was dimming bit by bit. Her colleagues noticed. "You look tired, Naya. Are you sleeping enough?" one asked. She only shrugged. "I'm fine. I just need my usual spot tonight." It became her sanctuary, her secret comfort. But every sweetness has a shadow, and every craving hides its cost. That night, sleep refused to stay. When it finally came, it came with whispers. In her dreams, Naya saw bowls breaking one after another, clay shattering, spoons stirring endlessly in dark pots. The air was thick with steam, and from that steam, faces began to rise. Faces she almost recognized, their eyes hollow, their mouths moving in silence. Then, faintly, a voice called her name. "Naya. Naya, don't eat again. Don't eat again." She woke with a gasp. Her room was dark, but the smell of burnt stew lingered in the air. Her stove was cold, untouched. She sat up, heart pounding. At work the next day, her colleagues laughed. "You and your golden spoon obsession. What's so special about that place, anyway?" Naya forced a smile, but her voice trembled. "It just makes me feel better." But deep inside, unease began to bloom, slow and silent, like rot beneath ripe fruit. That evening, as Naya walked home, the city no longer looked the same. The streets she had always known now seemed alive. Too alive. A stray dog stopped mid-step, its eyes glowing faintly as it watched her. Beggars whispered as she passed, their lips forming her name, though their eyes stayed shut. Lights flickered above her head. One, then two, then all at once. All at once. Her chest tightened. The wind carried a murmur, almost like laughter, almost like warning. The city, once her stage of speed and success, now felt like an old storyteller watching her from every corner. And in that eerie silence between the sounds of life, she could almost hear it, the whisper of something ancient. "You have eaten what should not be eaten." Naya quickened her steps. Behind her, a reflection glimmered briefly on a wet car window, Madame Coy's golden smile. Still and shining, our mothers used to say, "Not every hand that feeds you wishes you life." But these are the days of rushing feet and hungry hearts. The children of the new world no longer listen. They eat in haste, they drink without question, and they call it living. Yet, every story, like every meal, has its price. And those who forget the taste of wisdom often find themselves feeding the hunger that never ends. The city pulsed once more, alive, watchful, as the wind carried the faint, golden scent of Madame Coy's kitchen. The wind of the city carried whispers, soft at first, like secrets too afraid to speak aloud. But by the third sunrise, everyone had heard. Something strange was happening to those who had eaten from the golden spoon. The laughter that once spilled from its golden doors had turned into quiet moans behind closed curtains. Men who used to joke loudly at the taxi stands now sat hunched, eyes hollow, skin pale. Women who had boasted about Madame Coy's food woke in the night, sweating, clutching their stomachs as if something inside them refused to rest. In offices and market stalls, people began to talk. "It's the food," one whispered. "The one with the golden smile. She feeds more than she serves." But others laughed it off. "Ah, people will always fear what they don't understand." Yet even the boldest began to dream, of faces in the steam, of spoons that moved on their own, of hands stirring endless pots in a kitchen they could not see. By the time the harmattan winds began to blow, the whispers had become a song of warning. "Don't eat at the golden spoon. Not again." At the hospitals, doctors frowned behind their masks. "No fever," one said. "No sign of infection," said another. "Just weakness. And nightmares." Patients lay on beds, trembling, eyes darting to corners where no one stood. Some spoke in their sleep, muttering names of people long dead. Others refused to eat at all, afraid that even water might betray them. But when their families came, bringing fruits and bread, the sick turned away, crying. It's not ordinary. Something followed us from that place. Outside the hospital gates, the rumor grew teeth. Taxi drivers refused to pass the street where the restaurant stood. Mothers warned their children not to take food from strangers. Yet curiosity and hunger, the two oldest spirits of mankind, never rest for long. While the city shivered in fear, Madame Coy's glow only grew brighter. She walked through her restaurant with a grace that made even silence seem afraid to speak. Her golden bangles clinked softly as she moved from table to table, her smile constant, her eyes soft and unreadable. "Eat, my children," she would say. "You look tired. Life in this city drains the body. Let me feed you strength." Those who came found comfort in her words. The food tasted richer, the scent sweeter, and somehow she looked younger every day. Her skin shone as if kissed by the sun itself. People whispered, "She's blessed." Others said, "No human glows like that." But Madame Coy only smiled, stirring her pot slowly. The golden bangles flashing under the light, one for every lost soul who had ever dined there. The aroma from the golden spoon became a living thing. It crept through the streets, winding around buildings, sliding under doors, calling softly like a mother to her child. Steam rose from each plate like a spirit released from bondage. Those who passed by the restaurant could feel it, the pull, the hunger, the memory of warmth. Vendors nearby began to complain. "The scent steals my customers," said a man selling roasted corn. But even he, when night came and the city quieted, found himself standing before Madame Coy's door. "Just one bite," he told himself, and so they came, the rich, the poor, the tired, the lonely, drawn by that invisible promise. Some swore they saw faces in the steam, whispering blessings. Others said the floor beneath their feet seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Yet none of them turned away. Soon the sickness became a shadow that the city learned to ignore. The same people who had fallen ill returned, convincing themselves it was nothing. "Just stress," they said. "Just city life." The restaurant stayed full. The laughter returned, thinner, forced, echoing strangely against the walls. No one noticed that the same faces rarely appeared twice. Even the street preachers gave up shouting warnings. Hunger, after all, is stronger than fear, and the city is bright. Restless and proud, continued to eat, never realizing that it was being eaten in return. The wind that carried the scent of the golden spoon also carried the faintest whisper of the ancestors, lost beneath the noise of engines and laughter. When food glows brighter than wisdom, the living forget they too can be served. The mirror no longer told the truth. Naya stood before it, clutching her face with trembling hands. Her skin, once glowing and smooth, had turned dull like clay left too long in the sun. Her eyes, those proud, city-sharp eyes, looked hollow now, their shine stolen by something unseen. Yet even as she shuddered, her stomach twisted with craving. The thought of the golden spoon stew made her mouth water. "Just one more plate," she whispered. Just one. But when she reached for her phone to order, her fingers shook. The hunger felt wrong, as if it came not from her belly but from deep within her bones. Her body rejected the thought, but her soul, ensnared and silent, obeyed. That night, the battle began. It started with a groan that tore her from sleep. Naya clutched her stomach as fire rose up her throat. She stumbled to the sink and vomited black liquid that hissed as it touched the metal. The smell, rotten herbs, burnt leaves, and something faintly sweet, filled the air. Her eyes widened. The shadow on the wall beside her moved though she hadn't. The curtain swayed though no wind blew. And from somewhere near the corner of her room came a whisper, soft, broken, almost human. "You have eaten with the dead," she screamed, covering her ears, but the voice only laughed. The darkness thickened like smoke, swirling until the first light of dawn crept through the window and it fled, leaving behind the bitter smell of decay. When Mama Ijoma arrived, the air itself seemed to straighten. She stepped in with the authority of a storm that knew its own power, Head tied in bright fabric, eyes sharp, walking stick in hand. "Naya," she called, her voice cutting through the silence. Naya ran to her, weeping. "Mama, something is wrong with me. I don't sleep. I dream of shadows and voices that call my name." Mama Ijoma held her daughter's chin, studying her face. Then she inhaled deeply and froze. The scent that filled the room made her lips tighten. "This smell," she whispered. "This is not sickness. Something follows you, child." She began to pray under her breath, drawing signs in the air with her fingers. The beads on her wrist rattled softly. "Tell me," she said, her voice low. "Where have you been eating?" "The golden spoon," Naya said almost in a whisper. The name hung in the air like a curse. Mama Ijoma's eyes widened, her hand tightening on her daughter's arm. "What did you say?" "The golden spoon, Mama, near the market." "Their food is enough!" Her mother's tone cracked like thunder. She turned her face away, whispering a prayer. "They warned us in the market. That place is not clean. People said its owner made a covenant with the ones who eat souls. But we laughed, didn't we? City children always laugh at the wisdom of their mothers." Naya began to cry. "Mama, what do I do?" Her mother looked toward the window where the morning sun fought through heavy clouds. "We go where truth still speaks. To Elder Job." They left as the sun fell, walking through narrow streets where moonlight dripped between the roofs. The alleys grew quieter with every step, until the hum of the city vanished completely. Dogs barked in the distance. A lone drumbeat echoed faintly from a nearby shrine. At last, they reached a small hut behind the old fig tree. From its doorway came the smell of herbs and wood smoke. Dried leaves and cowries hung from the ceiling, whispering in the wind like voices remembering. "Elder Job," Mama Ijoma called softly. A deep voice answered from inside, slow and knowing. "I have been waiting for you." Elder Job sat before a low fire, his eyes clouded with age but sharp with spirit. He motioned for Naya to kneel. "Your shadow trembles," he said. "Something has eaten from your light." He reached for a calabash filled with cowries, his fingers steady as he spoke ancient words. The cowries clattered as they fell, white shells gleaming in the firelight. Then he blew ashes across them. The flames flickered, dimmed, then burned blue. Flames flickered, dimmed, then burned blue. The air thickened, pressing on their chests. Naya gasped. Elder Job's voice dropped to a whisper that felt older than the earth. "The food you eat is not food alone. It is mixed with souls seeking bodies to live again." The fire crackled. The ashes danced. "Madam Koi," he said finally, "feeds her beauty with the life of others. You, child, have fed her." The room grew silent, heavy with truth, and for the first time, Naya realized her hunger was not hers at all. Elder Job's eyes darkened, as though 1,000 spirits gathered behind them. His voice dropped low, layered with echoes not his own. "The food you eat is not food alone," he said, the words rolling like thunder in a cave. "You eat the cries of the dead seeking flesh again." Naya shivered. The firelight flickered, bending in strange ways as though afraid of his words. He pointed to the ashes in the calabash. "Each grain carries a name once spoken by the living. Madam Koi feeds them to you through her stew. You have swallowed the mourning of those who were never buried right. That is why your body turns against itself, because it remembers what your spirit tries to forget." Mama Ijoma covered her mouth, trembling. "So my daughter, she carries the dead?" Elder Job nodded slowly. "Not all the dead, only those hungry enough to live again." His breath grew heavier, his voice roughened with something ancient. "Long ago," he said, "there was a woman of great beauty and terrible pride, Koi, the Golden Woman. When time began to chase her face with wrinkles, she went to the spirits who live between the mirrors. They offered her a bargain, beauty for souls, wealth for life force." He reached into the fire, lifting a handful of white ashes without burning. She agreed, and from that night, her kitchen became her shrine. Every pot, every spice, every grain of salt, blessed by darkness. Those who eat her food feed her charm. Those who crave it too long become her harvest. Mama Ijoma whispered, "A covenant of hunger." "Yes," said Job, a hunger that eats through generations. The old man turned to Naya, his gaze soft yet piercing. "Half of you still lives," he said. "Half already belongs to them." Naya's eyes filled with tears. "Can I be whole again?" He sighed, his voice carrying the weight of both hope and sorrow. "If you have faith strong enough to face what hunts in the night, maybe. But half-possessed is a dangerous thing. The living will fear you. The dead will claim you." Naya swallowed hard. "Then I will fight." Her mother gripped her hand. "We fight together." That night, the moon rose swollen and red like an angry spirit's eye. The streets of the city lay silent, drained of laughter and song. Even the wind refused to stir. Naya walked beside her mother, her feet heavy with dread. Elder Job led the way, holding a clay lamp smeared with palm oil. "Do not speak," he whispered. The watchers hear names. The air felt thick, pressing on their chests as they approached the golden spoon. The sign above the door shimmered faintly, as though written in flame. By day, the restaurant had shone like gold. But now its light bled red, seeping through the windows like liquid fire. The building hummed softly, breathing in slow rhythm, as though alive. Naya's heart pounded. "Mama," she whispered, it's glowing." Her mother squeezed her arm. "Keep your eyes forward. Evil feeds on fear." They crept close to the window. Inside, Madame Coy stirred a vast pot, her bracelets jingling like chains. The steam that rose did not fade. It twisted, forming faces. The faces groaned, their mouths open in silent screams. Naya gasped. "Those are people." "Yes," Elder Job said quietly. "The ones she has fed upon." Madame Coy's eyes flicked toward the window as though she had heard. But she only smiled and kept stirring. "The smell itself is the snare," whispered Elder Job, pulling a cloth over his nose. "It travels through dreams. It calls to those who hunger even in their sleep." The wind carried the aroma, rich, sweet, irresistible. From distant houses, lights flickered on as if people stirred in their beds, drawn by invisible threads. "The city will wake soon," Mama Ijoma said, fear lacing her words. "They will come." "Then we must act before the scent finds them," said Job. Later, when dawn returned, the tale spread like harmattan fire through the streets. They said the golden spoon was found empty, its golden sign melted into red rust. Some swore they heard voices crying from the drains below. Others said the smell still lingered in the air, calling to the greedy. And so the elders warned, when people chase taste without gratitude, they feed what should never be fed. Even hunger, if not honored, can summon darkness. From that day, children learned to whisper before every meal, "Let my hunger stay human," because when hunger forgets its spirit, something else begins to eat. Elder Job drew 3 lines of black oil across Naya's forehead, his wrinkled hands steady despite the trembling of the ground beneath them. The air smelled of smoke and palm wine, and the night was heavy with unseen eyes. He pressed a small charm, woven from cowries, charcoal, and thread, into her palm. "Your heart must not tremble," he warned, his voice echoing as though the ancestors spoke with him. "The spirits smell fear before blood. If your spirit shakes, they will find the crack." Naya swallowed hard. "I'm not afraid," but her voice betrayed her. Elder Job looked into her eyes, nodded slowly, and whispered, "Then walk with your mother's prayers and the courage of your ancestors." Tonight, we face what eats in the dark. The red moon bled across the sky, staining the streets in a haunting glow. The city felt abandoned, even the stray dogs hid. Elder Job walked ahead, staff tapping the ground like a drumbeat guiding lost souls. Mama Ijoma followed, whispering prayers under her breath, clutching a rosary that glinted faintly in the moonlight. Naya walked last, her fingers tight around the charm. Her breath came in short bursts, but her eyes stayed fixed on the road. The electric poles flickered as they passed, and the wind carried voices, faint, like murmurs through old radios. "The city watches," Elder Job murmured without turning, "but it no longer knows how to see." Inside the once grand restaurant, the air was thick and hot. Madame Coy stood before a massive clay cauldron bubbling like a living thing. The stew hissed and spat, red and gold swirling together like fire and blood. As Naya stepped closer, faces began to rise within the liquid, faces of men, women, even children. They moaned softly, their voices tangled like roots beneath the earth. "Help us," one cried. "Free us," whispered another, eyes wide with despair. Naya gasped, clutching her mother's arm. "Mama, they're alive." "No," Elder Job said gravely. "They are trapped between the mouth and the grave." Madame Coy turned, her golden bangles glowing brighter than the moon. "Welcome," she said, her voice smooth like honey over fire. "Have you come to eat?" She laughed, the sound sharp and cold. "Ah, you think me evil? Once I too was hungry, once I too begged." Her eyes gleamed with madness. "When my beauty faded, the world looked past me. Men who once praised me spat when I asked for help. So I went to the eaters of essence, the ones who live in shadows deeper than death." Her laughter became a growl. "They said, 'Cook for us, and the world will bow at your table.' And they did. Every meal I served brought me praise, wealth, and youth. But every praise came with a price." Her lips curved into a cruel smile. "A fair trade, don't you think?" The pot bubbled violently. Faces screamed and twisted in agony. Madame Coy's reflection shimmered in the surface, half beauty, half bone. "Every dish I served fed them," she said, eyes glinting. "Every smile I gave hid a curse. And tonight," she turned toward the window where the blood moon glowed brighter. "The harvest must be complete." Her bracelets clanged as she stirred faster, and her skin began to flicker like firelight. Beautiful one moment, decayed the next. Mama Ijoma clutched Naya's arm. "The moon, it's calling her." "Yes," said Elder Job, "and it demands what she owes." The lamps burst and darkness swallowed the room. A deep hiss filled the air, followed by whispers that came from everywhere and nowhere. Shapes emerged, tall, thin, their bodies dripping like melted shadows. Their eyes burned red, their voices hissing in unison. "She has eaten our food," they said. "She belongs to us." Madame Coy's scream tore through the night. "No, I fed you!" "I served you?" The spirits moved closer, their outlines pulsing with hunger. Elder Job slammed his staff on the ground, shouting words older than time. His voice thundered like drums of war. "Return to the dark that bore you," he cried. He smashed a clay bowl, sending sacred powder into the air. Sparks ignited where it fell. "By the breath of the ancestors, by the fire of truth, your feast ends tonight." Flames rose from his words, licking the air like living serpents. The spirits shrieked, writhing, their shadows unraveling into smoke. Madame Coy staggered back. Her golden charm cracked, glowing fiercely before shattering. Her perfect face peeled away like bark from a dying tree. Beneath was a hollow visage, her skin pale and wrinkled, her eyes sunken yet filled with endless pain. "Look at me," she screamed. "Look at what hunger made of me," she screamed. "Look at what hunger made of me." Naya turned away, tears streaming down her face. "It's not hunger," she whispered. "It's greed." Madame Coy reached for the cauldron, desperate. "They promised me life." "But you gave them souls," Elder Job said softly. The pot trembled, growing hotter and louder. Elder Job raised his staff one last time and chanted with all his strength. The ground shook and the cauldron burst open. A wave of black smoke and burning light filled the room. The cries of countless souls echoed as they rose, swirling toward the ceiling before vanishing into silence. Naya fell to the floor, fainting, the charm in her hand glowing faintly, shielding her spirit from being swallowed by the chaos. When the smoke cleared, Madame Coy knelt among the ashes, her beauty gone. Tears streamed down her withered face. "I only wanted to be seen," she sobbed. "Not forgotten." Her eyes met Naya's. "Tell them, hunger is not only of the body, it is also of the soul." Then she smiled, a tired human smile, and stood. Without a word, she stepped into the broken cauldron. Flames rose around her as she lifted her hands to the sky. "Forgive me," she whispered. The spirits howled, their voices fading as her body turned to light, then to ash. The portal sealed, leaving behind only the echo of her scream. And peace. The fire dimmed. The restaurant walls crumbled, turning into dust that danced in the faint breeze. The red glow faded from the sky, and silence fell over the street. Only the scent of burnt stew remained, heavy, bitter, eternal. From that night, people said the golden spoon never truly vanished. On nights when the moon turned red, a faint smell of spice and sorrow still drifted through the air, reminding the living that greed, once fed, never forgets. Under the red dawn sky, the city whispered like an old woman sharing secrets. Smoke still curled from the heart of the market, black and stubborn, as though it refused to die. Where the golden spoon once stood, a place of laughter, wealth, and sweet aroma, now lay only silence and ruin. The air was thick with the stench of burnt oil and sorrow, and the ground shimmered faintly with heat, as if the earth itself had tasted the fire. Men in city uniforms stood in a crooked line, scratching their heads. Their eyes searched through the rubble, but the more they looked, the less they understood. One of them, Officer Bako, crouched low and brushed away the ash. His fingers stopped on something cold. A golden spoon cracked down its gleaming face. It caught the morning light, trembling in his hand like a living thing. "What happened here?" murmured a younger officer. Bako shook his head. "The people say this place was full last night. Food so fine, even the rich crossed the river to taste it. But now..." He paused, staring into the smoke. "Now, it's as if it never was." A crowd had gathered beyond the police tape, traders, drivers, mothers with baskets. Their whispers rose like a storm. "I told you that woman cooked with something not of this world," said one. "My cousin ate here 2 nights ago," said another. "He said the soup sang to him before he slept." "Foolish talk," an elder muttered, shaking his stick. When the gods are ignored, they remind us that not every hunger should be fed. A faint breeze stirred the ashes, and for a heartbeat the smoke twisted into the shape of a woman, her head high, her laughter soft and haunting. The officers froze. Then the vision vanished, leaving only the lonely crackle of cooling embers. Bako dropped the golden spoon. It landed face down in the dirt with a dull thud. "Let's go," he whispered, eyes still wide. "This place belongs to spirits now." As they turned away, the morning sun reached through the haze, catching the spoon's edge one last time. It glinted weakly, like an eye watching from another world. And though the fire was gone, its whispers lingered, a promise that stories, like hunger, never truly die. That night the city did not sleep easily. Dreams crept into the rooms of those who had once tasted from the golden spoon, dreams heavy as stone and dark as night rain. Men who had dined in laughter now tossed in fear. Women who once praised Madame Coy's recipes woke with trembling hands. In their dreams, she stood before the great black pot again, her gold earrings swaying like small suns. Her ladle moved slowly, stirring as she called their names one by one. Her voice was sweet but cold, like palm wine left too long in the gourd. Naya, Tunda, Kami. Each name rose with the steam. Each name pulled closer to the boiling surface. The dreamers tried to speak, but their tongues were heavy, tied by unseen ropes. The pot bubbled louder, as though impatient for more souls. Then, a sharp hiss, smoke, firelight, the smell of something burnt. They woke gasping, drenched in sweat, clutching their bellies. Some stumbled into hospitals, whispering of strange hunger. "Doctor," they said, "I feel empty, but not here." They would tap their chests instead of their stomachs. The doctors checked their bodies and shook their heads. "There is nothing wrong," they said. "You only need rest," but the people knew. They saw the same hollowness in each other's eyes, a hunger not for food, but for something the fire had not burned away. By the second week, the stories spread. Children whispered about Madame Coy walking through fog, asking for her missing customers. Mothers prayed louder before cooking, and some poured libations to appease the restless. And though the city carried on, buses honking, markets buzzing, There were nights when one could still smell burnt oil in the wind, and hear, faintly, the sound of a ladle striking an empty pot. Those who had eaten at the Golden Spoon knew better than to speak of it. But in their hearts they all felt the same truth. Some meals never leave you. Some hungers never die.